A common rule for any franchise is that it either has a definitive ending and goes out with a bang, or it goes on and on until quality drops and people grow tired of it. Or, as a wise man once said,
you either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I think many of us knew that was going to be the case with the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point, but part of me was hoping that the decline in quality would be a little more gradual than the immediate crash and burn with Eternals and She-Hulk, or they would be smart enough to know how to handle a previously qualitative franchise like Ant-Man. Now that we have all those dumpster fires, are we about to see the grand revolutionary comic book franchise collapse before our eyes? With the MCU's first entry, Iron Man, nobody was expecting this big, massive universe. They just thought they were about to see the tale of an egotistical genius going through a redemption arc. The big build-up to that big, expansive universe was gradual, starting with a slight tease about one team, then inserting Tony as a cameo in the next movie, then introducing each member of that team with cameos from other movies, then assembling that team for a big, massive blowout before introducing threats on a universal scale. The build-up was slow, and as we found out with other studios trying to rush their cinematic universes, that's the way we liked it. As the demand for more content became more than the studio was probably anticipating to handle though, with the studio going from releasing one movie a year to 2 to 3, the quality, whether we like to admit it or not, did start to stumble. I mean, on its own, Avengers Age of Ultron is not bad, but when you watch it alongside the first and third Avengers movies, it's extremely uneventful despite having lots of events that affect the MCU timeline, like the introduction to Vision or that hammer thing with Captain America. That may or may not be because the demand for another Avengers movie exceeded the studio's desire to create another Avengers movie. That's just one example of the mediocrity that's always been the case of demand for content overpowering the passion to create a work of art. Imagine that demand increasing tenfold. In 2021 alone, there were 4 movies and 5 TV shows. Marvel hadn't even worked with TV shows much before. When they did, they typically let them veer off into their own universe because the production of them was handed over to people who knew how to handle it better. Like, Winter Soldier may be the only movie you'd have to watch in between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to understand what was going on in that one. And now Disney's demanding that not only do they push out 5 TV shows in 1 year, but that they absolutely have to tie into the movies. Like, we have to watch 6 hours of poorly CG characters just to follow what happens with, well, these poorly CG characters? And this hasn't just been affecting Marvel either. Star Wars has had several announcements on their plate, with quite a few coming to poorly assembled fruition over the past few years. Pixar has certainly released more films than they're probably used to. And on a side note, the Disney parks have been half-assing it with their new attractions as well. The JPEG era of Disney has affected every department, choosing quantity over quality, but now that we're in the new second Iger era, creativity has been handed back to the individual studios, and while we're already seeing a slowdown with Pixar and Star Wars, Marvel, just to stay on topic, has many projects that have already been in production, and unfortunately they still have a timetable to keep. And that's why, despite this new era, we're still seeing remnants of that especially crappy era of Marvel with something like Quantumania. With that said though, there are 2 things that have been recently announced that give me hope that we could see stable construction and even pacing return to the MCU. The first is the Marvels getting pushed to November. This is most likely to polish any effects that were most likely going to be, well, just as bad as they were on Ms. Marvel, and possibly complete any reshoots that would make the story more cohesive. I get the strange feeling that Captain Marvel may or may not be leading the new Avengers, so I could see how this could be essential. The second thing that Marvel announced is that Armor Wars, previously conceived as a Disney Plus show, is instead being made into a movie, which a lot of people don't know was supposed to be the case with a lot of these Disney Plus shows in the first place. Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, Hawkeye, all of them previously conceived as movies and were instead stretched out into TV shows to fill Disney's demand for Disney Plus content. Now that the creators have control again, they claim that Armor Wars will be told better as a movie. Could this potentially be the case for some of the other shows like Ironheart or Echo? I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's scary seeing the MCU stumble as much as it has been, and even though Secret Wars, from what I've gathered, is more massive than the typical cinematic venture that most audiences are used to, many people thought the same thing about this crossover continuity that Marvel made famous in the first place, so the expectation that they can do no wrong is reasonable. However, the 2 biggest things to keep in mind is that 1, the MCU was never perfect to begin with. I mean, I dare you to rewatch Iron Man 2 now that we've seen how low the bar can get thanks to Eternals. And 2, even the biggest home run hitters can get fatigued from being overworked. But with the studio being given creative freedom as well as what seems like more breathing room, we may start to see more quality content after playing catch-up for a little bit. With gods, multiverses, and a highly menacing baddie that was one of the highlights of Quantumania all playing a part in the upcoming Avengers films, it sounds like it could build up to something amazing. And it seems like Disney is catching on to this idea that in order to get the pop culture explosion that they got from the Infinity Saga, they need to let Marvel go at their own pace. So while we may need to put up with some crap for at least a little bit, albeit hopefully not with any of the movies at this rate, I still have hope that the next home run is, as a certain Evil Grimace put it, inevitable.